want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We have a great big group, and that's fun. It's kind of been fun to play around with social media with all of our social distancing. So my name is Loretta Tobolske-Horn, and I'm one of the Ornery Mule coaches and kind of put together having this book club. So we also have a couple of other Ornery Mule coaches with us. Michelle, I'll let you go first and introduce yourself.
So I'm Michelle Hartwig. I am, I guess, CEO of Ornery Mule Racing, and I put on races like the Kettle Moraine 100, Hennepin 100, and about 9 different trail races. And thank you, Dean, for coming. You're a huge inspiration to me and so many people. I'm so grateful you wrote that book. You've changed so many people's lives.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you still like me.
And I'll
let Steve go next here.
Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Streaker. I'm assistant race director at Ornery Mule Racing. I'm coming at you from Janesville, Wisconsin tonight. And same as they said, reiterate, super thrilled to be here and be part of this conversation tonight.
Well, you got to say it like you mean it. You're from Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's right, Wisconsin. Just had some cheese.
Wisconsin.
I should say I'm from Illinois. I'm in Crystal Lake, Illinois.
So I would like to take a minute and welcome Dean Karnazes. Is that how you say your name? I almost just said Karno because I've been struggling with this for 2 days.
I can't pronounce my last name myself, so tell me whatever you want. I'm mutilating myself all the time, so. Yeah, Karnazes is fine, Karno's fine.
Okay, all right, perfect. So it's really a privilege to have you here with us tonight. We're all a big group of people who love to run, and it's fun to have you here. But I'm going to share a little bit about Dean. Time magazine named Dean one of the top 100 most influential people in the world. Men's Fitness hailed him as one of the fittest men on the planet. Stan Lee of Marvel Comics fame called him a real superhuman. An acclaimed endurance athlete and a New York Times best-selling author, Dean has pushed his body and mind to inconceivable limits. Among his many accomplishments, he has run 50 marathons in all 50 U.S. states in 50 consecutive days. He's run 350 continuous miles for going sleep for 3 nights. He's run across the Sahara Desert in 120-degree temperatures, and he's run a marathon to the South Pole in -40 degrees. On 10 separate occasions, he's run a 200-mile relay race solo, racing alongside teams of 12. His long list of competitive achievements, including winning the world's toughest foot race, the Badwater Ultramarathon, running 135 miles nonstop across Death Valley during the middle of the summer. He has raced and competed on all 7 continents on the planet twice over. Dean's book, Ultramarathon, was recommended to me several years ago by my running friend, Derek. The book inspired me to want to run an ultra, and I think Dean's stories have inspired so many other people, which is evident by all of the people that are here tonight, and I'm adding a few more people to our group. When Michelle and I were deciding what book we wanted to start with to kick off our book club, because this is very brand new, we both quickly said Ultramarathon Man, and it was just an easy decision for us because I think it inspired both of us so much. It's been a great read, and it's been a lot of fun. We've spent a lot of time going through the chapters and reading pieces and comparing them to our personal stories along with Dean's adventures, and it's been kind of exciting to get to know each other that way. Each week we leave kind of feeling like we've been on a long run together because we learned so much about each other. So we're excited now that, Dean, you can be part of our long run and share with us your information too. So I'd like to start off by giving our runners who participated in the book club a chance to ask Dean some questions. But first, Dean, do you have anything you'd like to say before we get started?
Just that I'm very honored. I didn't realize this was the inaugural book. Now I feel like there's a lot of pressure on my shoulders.
There is.
And also, I told you to embellish freely when you gave that introduction. So thank you for taking me up on that. I was exhausted just listening to myself.
Well, I have to say that last night, we've been doing a lot of binge watching of Netflix. Well, last night we spent the night binge watching YouTube videos of you. So I feel like I know you personally now.
Well,
and I was trying to figure out how to say your name. So
For everyone who can see me, so that I'm in California, by the way, just north of San Francisco, and that's a place called Mount Tamalpais. It's the Marin Headland. Some of you may have run there or heard of it. So it's kind of an iconic trail running area. It's not a bad place to be sheltered in place. I feel very lucky because we can still go out on the trail. So, I hope one day we can share some footsteps together on that trail. And I look forward to the day that comes. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's a beautiful background. I wish we were there. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Courtney, would you like to start us off? There she is. You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Unmute myself. Hello, Dean. I'm
Hey, Courtney.
Wilson. I'm out here in Mount Airy, Iowa. My first question is, when you were running the marathon, they did blood work trials on you, and was there any big significance in your blood work on your 50 marathon races?
That's a really good question. And the honest answer is my blood didn't change much at all. In fact, most of my blood chemistry stayed pretty consistent. I lost a couple pounds after 50 days, but I had bulked up going into it on purpose because I thought I would lose some weight. The worst downside, the only thing I really lost were a few toenails, but that's to be expected.
Yes. Okay.
And I think the most interesting thing is, so the 50th marathon of 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days was the fastest of all marathons. So I ran the New York City Marathon as number 50, and I ran it in 3 hours and 30 seconds. So like 3 hours flat, which, I think speaks a lot about the human body. I mean, if you treat your body well and, put the right fuel in and, take care of it, it actually grows stronger over time. So I thought that was really telling that the last marathon was the fastest of them all.
Right.
Thank you, Courtney. Megan, would you like to go next?
Sure. So, of course, right now we're running and getting our exercise in a much smaller radius than we typically would, and we're doing a lot of the same routes over and over. Reading your book, you talked about your first time doing Western states, and I know just looking at Ultra Sign Up, of course, you've been back and you've run that course over and over and over again. How has that experience changed now that you have so much history with the course? Like, does it help? Does it hurt? Like, what are the good and bads of running a course, racing a course that you know so well by this point?
It's really funny you should ask that question because I'm working on my 5th book right now, and literally the final chapter is about going back to Western states after so many years, after 25 years, and how the experience has changed and how I've changed as well. So it's a really apropos question. In answer to that question, I have physically more challenges because I'm a little more mature now. I don't want to say I'm getting older, but I'm getting older. So, there's that challenge, which I really like. Can you keep performing at a level that you're satisfied with as you get older and older? But the other thing is the race has changed so much. The first year I did it, there were something like, so this is in 1994, there were 3,500 finishers of an ultramarathon in North America. And last year there were 129,000 finishers. So the growth of the sport has been phenomenal. The other, the downside is that it's almost impossible to get into the Western states now. The odds of getting accepted in the lottery are slimmer than getting into Harvard. So it's really very, very difficult to get into the race. And the other thing that has changed is because it's so difficult, 75% of the runners are first-time runners. It used to be, it was just kind of all the same guys. You'd see a lot of the same people, and we'd all kind of run and compare each other's notes. Now it's 75% of the field has never run the Western states before. So it's kind of interesting to see it through their eyes because they're kind of like children, like they're seeing everything fresh and new. So that's changed. And the other dynamic that's changed is it's become a much more international race. So something like 50% of the field came from overseas last year. And that's really, yeah, I think it's been a really beautiful thing because you get a lot of different cultures coming in. And I still really love the race as much as, you know, the first year I did it.
I think we have you to thank for kind of pioneering, though, and making ultra marathons what they are. I mean, people got inspired by the things that you did, and I think that probably a good share of our group has been inspired by you. So we have to thank you for that.
Just because I order pizza when I run, that's what everyone loves me for that story.
So, all right, is Robert here somewhere? Would you like to go next?
Yes, I am.
Yay!
All right. So this is really exciting. It's such an honor to make your acquaintance, Dean. I actually feel like I've known you for years. Ever since I first read or listened to your book while I was running, Ultramarathon Man. I've had you in my ear over and over and over again. So besides Ultramarathon Man, I've read 50/50, and I've also read Run 26.2 Stories. All while I've been running. So I've been listening to this whole time. So I feel like Karno is the appropriate name to address you by, if that's okay with you.
That's fine. Yeah, I like it better, actually.
Super. Awesome. Awesome. So my question for you is, what are the top 2 or 3 character traits that define yourself and other great ultra runners?
That's a really good question. I think the first trait is stubbornness. You know, I always tell people, you know, running an ultramarathon is not hard. All you have to do is not stop. So, you know, being really stubborn and being unwilling to give up, I think is a trait. I think another trait is, you know, personally, I'm very introverted. So I enjoy the solitude. Like, I'm more comfortable by myself than in groups of people. So to me, it's a form of escapism, if you will. You know, the other thing that I think sets ultramarathoners apart is we kind of embrace the struggle. A lot of people try to avoid pain and avoid anything that's difficult. We welcome it. We say, bring it on. Like, I want to experience this. I want to see if I can overcome. And we realize that you're never more alive than when you're struggling. So I think most people have it all wrong. They think if you're comfortable, you're going to be happy. And so many people are so comfortable, they're miserable, where we welcome this challenge into our life.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Totally does. Absolutely. Thank you. And
I've just got one thing to add. So now you've got some time on your hands. You got to check out The Road to Sparta, which is my most recent book. The only reason I say that is the guy who read it is really good. He's an actor. I didn't read it myself. So it's really like, you know, an audiobook, the voice in your ear really makes a difference. And he's a good reader. So check out The Road to Sparta.
I will. Thank you so much. We have a common interest, by the way, 7-Eleven grande burritos.
I look forward to the day we can go back in and push the microwave button, right? I'm afraid to touch anything now.
Number 3. Number 2. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Okay. I know you're referring to, by the way. Probably no one else does, but I know what number 3 means on that little knob.
Yes. Yep.
It's a perfect heat for the burrito, people. Yeah.
It is.
And Robert, what was your longest run that you've done?
It was 206 miles.
Yeah, 206 miles. That's pretty impressive.
I have to admit, I did have a few hours of sleep in between, and they weren't sleepwalking.
I will not hold that against you. That is an incredible run. Was it like a self like your own course where you just set out, and did you have support like a vehicle, or tell me about it. I'm really interested.
So it was a run for a charity that I support in the Chicagoland area. I'm from the Chicagoland area. And it was to support families in need. The charity was the Basket Brigade of Suburban Chicago. And what we do is every Thanksgiving, we feed families in the area that are in need. And so I ran that as a charity run on my own. I did have support from friends who are runners that came out and ran with me. And then I had a home base where I kept all my gear. So I would constantly come back to my home base. And, but primarily it was self-supported. I just went out there, and 7-Elevens were my pit stops, my aid station.
Well, congratulations. And you did it for a very worthy cause. So right on.
Thank you so much. And I had you in my ear while I was running.
All right. The next person I have that had a question was Jaron Christensen. Are you on? I thought I saw him. Did you see him, Michelle? Oops.
And I'm getting, you're probably getting these as well. I think you're getting these. I'm getting a lot of questions.
Yeah, unmute yourself, Jaron.
Yeah. Is Jaron there?
Yeah, he is.
Hello?
Yeah.
There you go. Yes. Do you want to ask your question?
Sure. Hey, Dean. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Darren.
Virtually, I guess. Big fan of your book. I want to let you know that I do a run-a-thon to support Girls on the Run every year. And your book, Ultramarathon Man, goes to the top mileage girl that's in Girls on the Run. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
My daughter was part of Girls on the Run, and I was on the board of Girls on the Run. So thank you. It's a great organization.
Yeah, your book definitely inspired me when I first read it. I'd never even heard of anybody running more than 26 miles before until I read it. So it was kind of like the gateway into the community. So I appreciate it. So my question for you is, how does somebody such as myself with a young family, a wife that doesn't run or isn't very active, and 2 little kids, how do you balance the training with the work and the family? What do you have any advice for me or the people that are in similar situations?
Don't sleep. But I think that's what I would do. I'd get up early in the morning and do a lot of my training before the kids were up. So I went through a few years of sleep deprivation, pretty chronic, but it was worth it to me because my family's my top priority. So I just, I try to always put them first. And I think kids detect, they're good at detecting hypocrisy. So, if you support them, if you go to their games and you're there for them as a father, they'll be more forgiving when you go and say, I'm going to go do an 8-hour run kind of thing. They'll accept that. So I think that it goes both ways, respect their time. And I think they'll respect your time. The other thing is that I started taking my kids to all my races at a very young age. And I made it fun. Like, it wasn't about dad going to a race, where they were just dreading, oh, we got to go to another one to dad's race. I'd always schedule a lot of really fun activities for them, and it'd be about them. And there'd be also this race dad was going to do. So that was a really great way to get them really looking forward to going to these races. And the other thing is that I would always do the race first, because I'll tell you, if you're trying to have fun with the family and you've got a 100-mile race coming up in a couple days, you're never really your best. So I would say do the race and then have some fun afterward.
Cool. Great advice. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We have a question in the comment section from Eric Johnson. How and why have you adapted different eating and training habits over the years?
Well, I've learned with pizza that you got to get the Hawaiian style because the pepperoni is too spicy. So you get a Hawaiian style pizza, you ask them not to slice it and to give it a really thin crust. And then you roll it into this big burrito and you just eat it as you run as a big rolled up log. But I don't do that so much anymore. Now my diet has changed because I'm trying to eat, a quote unquote clean diet. So my diet is, if you can't pick it from a tree or dig it from the earth or catch it with your hands or catch it with a hook, I don't eat it. So I don't eat anything refined or processed. There's a mentor of mine, a guy named Jack LaLanne. And anyone who's over 50 is probably shaking their head. Yeah, I know who Jack LaLanne is. Anyone under 50 is like, who's Jack LaLanne? He preceded Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was like the original fitness guru. And he was a mentor of mine. And he said, Dean, if man makes it, don't eat it. And if it tastes good, spit it out. So that's kind of my motto now with my diet.
Nice. So I have kind of a question I have. How do you, that kind of goes along with that, how do you get in enough calories when you're eating so clean, when you're in high training times?
I eat calorie dense foods like nut butters. So I know which foods are more dense source of calories. Nut butters, for instance, avocados. I up my intake of olive oil. I'm 100% Greek, so I get really good olive oil, and I know that's pretty packed with calories. So I probably have 40% of my calories, maybe 50% from fats, because to your point, when you're expending 6,000-7,000 calories a day in training, you got to kind of match that somehow.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, would you like to ask a question?
Well, I was going to ask something a little bit different that I was just curious about is, your book absolutely, I think, changed ultra running completely. And that one reason that the sport is so big. What made you decide to write that book? Were you a writer before? Because you're such a great writer.
Oh, I'm Greek, so it's just storytelling is in my blood, I guess. But I wrote the book because I just wanted to write a book. I mean, like a lot of people, you have your life goals, and one of them, I wanted to jump out of an airplane. I wanted to try sushi. I wanted to write a book. So I wrote a book, and I thought, if 5 of my buddies buy this book, I'll be very lucky. And it became a New York Times bestseller. And I thought, that's bizarre that people are interested in reading about this obscure topic of ultramarathoning. Like, there was power in it, because a lot of people weren't even runners, and they're sending me a message saying your book is so inspiring. And I thought it's not, it's maybe about some of my stories, but it's more this idea of, human expansion, of nothing is impossible, of kind of removing your own mental barriers and doing something, let's face it, that's really friggin' insane. And all of you guys have done it, so congratulations. But it's life-changing when you do it. And there's a certain mindset that's, reads my book and says, wow, those people are crazy. I would never do anything like that. And then there's everyone on this call. It's like, I want some of this. I want to try it myself. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I learned from the book. It made me dream that anything was possible. And, I wanted to sit in the car and throw up after running 50 miles because I pushed myself so hard after reading it. And, it was a very short time. I had done marathons in a very short time after that I started doing ultramarathons. So thank you again so much.
Well, and let me ask you a question. You're in the event business. Where do you see this thing going? I mean, what do you see? Do you think it's just going to, one day they'll say, okay, it's fine to run a race and there'll be protocol as usual? I can't imagine showing up to an aid station like we do and just grabbing food from a table that's stuffing it in our mouth. So what's your predictions of where things are going to go?
Yeah, I think aid stations are going to look a lot different. I am hopeful that we will have races this year, but I don't know that we will have races this year. And I feel like for me, I've been getting ready for a while for aid stations to tighten up. I think that they've been a little bit, generally too loose at ultra marathons. And we've switched to mainly like grab and go food that's individually packed. And out in California, I noticed that they do that a lot of their races, because I think that's cleaner than the bowl that's got M&Ms in it that everybody's dirty hands goes into and you eat it. So I see mask. I mean, it's just going to be different. It's definitely, if there's races this year, they're going to look a lot different. And I can't see how they can stop them. I think that they'll happen, but it'll look a lot different.
Well, you guys are used to masks where you live because all those mosquitoes.
Yeah, and cold.
We don't have those in California, so that's like your national bird, I think.
Pat, would you like to ask a question? No? That's okay. I can go on to someone else. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. Teddy, do you have a question for us? Okay, so we will go on to the next question over here. A question is, what was it like to meet Stan Lee?
He said I have incredible endurance, but I mean, that spending 20 minutes with that guy was an endurance event. I think he was 93 when I met him, and he was like a spark plug. He had so much energy and so many ideas. He was just going on, and he was really a curious guy as well. He was so interested in like how you do what I did. Like he thought, are there campgrounds? Are there hotels? Where do you stay when you run 100 miles? He couldn't get his head around the idea of a human actually doing this, and they said, wow, you people are real superhumans. So it was an incredible experience, but it was eye-opening to see that he thought what we do is superhuman. And this is the guy that, has founded Marvel Comics.
I'm going to let Steve go next. Do you have a question, Steve?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so many people, as you can see, is throwing accolades at you, admire you. Dean, who do you admire? Like, who do you look up to?
I think my dad is my biggest hero, just because I've lived with the man my whole life, and I've seen how he's conducted his life, and I really admire him and respect him. So, I think it's the people that are closest to us that are our biggest heroes, because you can worship someone that's a movie star or a rock star or an author, but you don't really know their true personality. You hear it, like, I thought Steve Jobs was a great guy, and then you kind of learn a little bit more about the reality there. Like, oh, maybe he wasn't that such a great a guy anyway. But that's why I think people that are closest to me are my biggest heroes. And I would say my dad is at the top of the list.
That's a sweet answer.
I must say my mom is right next to him though. She's pretty special too. So yeah.
Pretty awesome to have family to be part of your support crew. So that's nice. I have a question, an interesting question from Aaron Marr. If you could invent a product to magically solve a problem you encounter on your runs or adventures, what would it be?
Right now, I'll tell you exactly what it would be. It'd be a vaccine to COVID-19.
Good answer.
But I don't know. I mean, I've written a little sci-fi once in a while. I always think about like a drone that follows you around, that has the little kitchen in there, so it can, like, if you want a burrito, it can cook up a quesadilla for you. It can make a little margarita for you and just fly it down to you. And then it has it's like one of those blimps where on the side it says little messages and say, "Keep going, Karno. You're the best."
All right. Somebody did comment, and I think this goes along with it. Dean is an athlete, writer, and a comedian. So Teddy says, what's next?
Well, that's a good question, Ted. I was actually planning on running a marathon in every country of the world in 1 year. So as I did 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days, I was hoping to do a marathon in every country of the world in a 1 year time frame. So I've been working with the U.S. State Department and the United Nations to get the passports and permits to get in to all these countries. But, obviously that's been put on hold. You can't, there's no one flying around to country right now. So that was my dream, and I might have to revise it, based on how long this lasts.
Okay. And let's see, we have one more from Teddy. Apparently his audio is not working. After everything that has been done already by ultra runners, what has to be done, yet to be done? What is the next barrier to break?
I think when we get to Mars, someone's got to run a marathon on Mars.
All right. We have another question is Susan Miller here?
I'm here.
All right. Would you like to ask your question?
Oh, sure. I had put in the comments earlier, and it kind of ties into something you mentioned, being maturing as you run. And I'm certainly an older runner, getting older. And I've noticed I'm more injury prone when I fall than I used to be when I was younger. So do you have any suggestions to avoid falling or prevent falls? Or if you are falling, how should you roll?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I could prevent falls, because I've taken my share of falls as well. What I've kind of analyzed falling, because it happens to me quite a bit, when you just trip, your legs get lazy and you kick a rock or you kick a root and you go over the handlebars. And what typically happens is you kick something with one foot and then you quickly jut out with your other foot to try to compensate so you don't fall. And you actually gain momentum when you do that. And you end up going faster so that when you do fall, it's worse off than if you'd just taken the original fall. But it's hard to do because your instincts are, okay, if I kick something, I'm going to try to prevent the fall. So what you have to do, this sounds crazy, is you have to practice by like kicking something and falling over. So just choreograph a fall, kick something and fall over. And that'll get you used to when you kick something, instead of trying to prevent the fall and speeding up and making it horrible, you just fall and it's still pretty bad.
Oh, that's good. All right. I have a question from Jerry Lynn. How do you stay motivated through the shutdown?
Look what I have. I mean, I am blessed. I am privileged. I get out every day. It's the only thing keeping me sane is running. So my life hasn't changed that much. The only thing that's changed is I haven't flown. I haven't been anywhere overseas in the past, 4 months. And that's the longest stretch in 3 decades I haven't been overseas. So I was quite a, globetrotter, and that came to an abrupt halt.
Okay. So I have a friend here tonight, Kevin, and he just logged his 120,000 miles, career miles. What are your miles? Hey, Kevin.
Hi.
Do you know what your career miles are?
I'm going to bow to Kevin. I'm going to bow.
No.
Hey, Kevin.
Don't do that.
I did a back of the napkin calculation, and I think I'm probably around 100K, but I don't think I'm 120. Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. How old are you? Can I ask?
Just about to turn 64.
And
you look great too. Yeah, I mean, I just saw you. I just flashed the screen. You look really great. So, can you get to 150?
Barring any, let's say, nasty virus, sure. Survive this one.
How long has your streak been going? Like, when did you start? Like, how long have you been running? Your whole life, or just do you take it up later in life? Or
I actually started running the day after I saw Frank Shorter win the Olympic gold medal in 1972. The day after, I just thought, oh, I want to do that. And I could barely make it around the block, and then just every day I'd add on a block, and within 2 years, I had ran a 100K.
Wow, back then. That was early on. So in 1980, you ran 100K.
72. Or well, that was actually 74, 1974. 74. And it was in a pair of Gola soccer shoes because I was living in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We couldn't buy running shoes.
I think you ought to write a book.
You should.
I think that's a great story.
Yeah, I've had the privilege to race with Kevin. We've done a relay race together and a little bit of just some running together. He's a great guy. Kevin, do you have any question for him?
I just wonder how you eat what you do on the run, because I eat in small bites along the way. But when I hear about, bringing a credit card and ordering a pizza and folding it in half and chowing down, I mean, I would. 2 miles later, I'd be out. I'd be done because my digestive tract just doesn't work that way. And I'm amazed that you can digest, quantities and types of food that I can't even fathom.
Yeah, I mean, this was during a 200-mile. So I ran a 200-mile relay race. Like you guys did a relay race. Did you do a Ragnar or what? Which one did you do?
It was the Calhaven trail relay. So it wasn't that long.
Okay. So I just I was running 200 miles and I hadn't eaten anything in probably 7 hours when I ordered that pizza. So I was really deplenished, but no problems. I probably could have ate more.
My question isn't just how you eat it. It's how did you balance a pie, a pizza, a coffee? How do you carry all of this?
Well, I told you I rolled it all up. That was the key, is getting this thing nice and tight so I could carry it with one hand.
Okay.
And yeah, no, and I had a pack on, so I was stuffing everything I could in my pack, and I was carrying everything, and I wasn't going fast. I mean, I wasn't setting any world records with speed, but I was shuffling along.
All right, we have another question here. Let's see, Emma, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. I just finished your book, so thank you so much for joining us. I'm curious if you think, or why you think ultra running has gotten more popular in the last couple decades. I don't know, is it just because internet makes it easier to hear about it, or maybe our easy lives, we need something that to suffer through more?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think that you know, certainly my book raised some awareness, but I think that a lot of us, I mean, you're young, and a lot of people your age, you know, they're kind of caught up in superficialities. But if you're somebody who seeks like deeper meaning, you want to try something intense, right? You want to go do something that's really challenging and really hard and see if you can overcome. And that's where you get the greatest fulfillment, is doing something difficult, not doing something easy. So I think some people realize that, and that's led to the growth. I think it's kind of a backlash to, you know, social media and just, you know, everything we experience now, just this bombardment of noise. It's just some quiet, you know, go spend, for me, you know, 20, 30 hours just, you know, running. And it's really rejuvenating to me. It's like, you come back renewed. I don't know. Have you run an ultra marathon?
The farthest I've ever ran is 50 miles.
I love when people say, "Oh, I've only run 50 miles." Come on, that's incredible. So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
But wait a second, you've done an Ironman, haven't you? A full?
Yeah, but that was only 26 miles of running.
It was an Ironman. All right, we have another question from Russell. I hear that you can learn a lot from failure than from success. What is the most important lesson you have learned from a failure that you don't think you could have learned otherwise?
I've learned that failure really sucks. That's pretty much the lesson. It's like, if you don't hate to fail, you'll never not fail. So, you know, to me, when you succeed, you high five, you have a bottle of champagne, you know, everything is good. When you fail, you tend to look inward and you get very introspective, and you tend to analyze, where were my shortcomings? You know, where did things go wrong, and how can they be changed to do better in the future? So, you know, until you fail, I don't think you know where your limit is. Like you don't find your edge until you actually tumble over it. And that's why with ultramarathon, it's very symbolic. Like you can try a 50K. If you pull that off, you can try a 50 miler. If you pull that off, you can try a 100 miler. At some point, you're going to fail, though. Then you can try Badwater. You know, you can do the Spartathlon, and you're going to fail. And it's crushing. And I think it's something that everyone should go through.
Of the races that you've done, or the runs that you've done, what is the one that you, I guess, really cherish the most?
The one that I
cherish the most, that was really most meaningful.
Oh, that's easy. So, you know, I've run, like I said, on all 7 continents twice. I've run hundreds of miles. I've run, you know, a few hundred marathons. But my most cherished race was a 10K I did with my daughter, Alexandria, on her 10th birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So to me, yeah, that was pretty special.
Very cool. And let's see, we have, Jaron has one more question. He wants to double dip. What suggestion would you give a flatlander that primarily trains on the roads but wants to run ultra trail races?
I would say go to a stairs, if you can do stairs. I really feel for you guys because, you know, we have this outside my doorstep, and I know when you're in Chicago, you don't have hills like this, you know, you have flat. So if you can run stairs, I think that's the best way to condition your legs. You know, as for altitude training, run when it's hot. And when it's hot out, wear extra clothing. Heat is poor man's altitude training. So when your body's hotter, it has to work harder. It pumps more blood and you get more red blood cells. So make yourself run when it's hot. You know, if you're trying to go do something like Leadville, where you're going to fly to Colorado and run up in the mountains, yeah, that's what I suggest. And there's a building in Chicago called the Hancock. Does anyone know the Hancock Tower?
Yeah.
So they have a race up that called the Hustle Up the Hancock. That'll get you trained for some hills.
Thank you. Steve and I were just talking about that the other day, and I think Michelle about that heat training and altitude training. So that's nice to hear that. Erin Montgomery, would you like to ask your question? There's Erin.
Yeah, sure. So you've done both extreme heat and extreme cold, and you know they both have their challenges. Is there one that you would prefer to run in more, heat or cold?
I would take the heat any day. Yeah, the cold is too much for me. I'm a wimp. I'm a California kid, so I cannot deal with the cold. Thankfully, I've got a sponsor called the North Face, so I can get the gear I need, but I take the heat any day.
Nice. I have another question from Robert. Would you like to ask it yourself, Robert?
Certainly. Thank you very much.
A super fan.
So Karno, what was your training schedule throughout the year? And did you take breaks in between doing your ultras?
You know, during big years, I was pretty much racing almost every weekend. So if you look at my race calendar, I probably would run maybe 30 or 40 races a year. Some would be ultramarathons. You know, I still do a lot of road marathons just because my sponsors send me to like the race expo for a marathon, and they say, you know, you can just do the race expo and then you can fly home. I'm like, no, I'm a runner. Like I'm here for the expo. I'm not just going to leave and not run the marathon. So I probably run 30 to 40 races a year, and I probably don't recover as well as I should. I can't say no. I have a really hard time saying no. So I get these invitations like, oh, you want to fly to New Zealand and run a race? You want to fly to Patagonia and run a race? You know, I can't say no. So it's probably more than I should be taking on, but I figured you only get one go at it. So
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Eric Johnson has a question. Eric, would you like to ask it?
Yeah, thank you, Loretta. Hi, Dino. How you doing, man?
Hey, bro. How are you?
Good.
I like the growth. I like the growth. When was the last time you shaved?
Oh, dude, I've been in quarantine.
You're looking the part.
I got the COVID, so I haven't been running for 14 days, and I'm losing it. But
you seriously got it?
Yeah. Well, my job is. Yeah, we'll just put it this way: my job has plenty of people that have it. So, but it's getting better. I'm on the road to recovery, and you know, I wanted to say that years ago, I read your book, Ultramarathon Man, and my mother had it, and she lives out in Orange County, okay? And I was blown away because I had no idea anybody could even run 100 miles, you know? And at that time, I was, you know, getting into running pretty good, and one of the statements in the book was when it might have been that morning or maybe the night before when you talked to this Indian guy, and he said, you know, the pain and the misery that you go through, and he said something like that is the body purging itself of weakness. And when I read that hit me pretty hard. I mean, I really could relate with that and kind of pushed me, you know, to push myself. And you had mentioned something about, and I've read your book, The Road to Sparta, which is a great book, awesome book. And that seems like a very, very tough race also. And, but you had mentioned a while ago about, you know, as you've gotten older, you've slowed down, but your endurance has gotten better. So, but then there probably comes a point where you kind of teeter on both of those levels. Do you do a lot of speed work still? Kind of back up with that question the other person had about your training. That's all.
Yeah, no, welcome back, by the way. I'm glad you got through that. My gosh. I look forward to the day you can start running again. And regarding your question, yeah, I still do a lot of speed work. I have to, like, to keep the same level of fitness that I would naturally have at a younger age. I got to do my speed work. So I actually look forward to it now because it's shorter and it's kind of more quantifiable. You know, if I'm going to go do a 30-mile run, you know, it might take 5, 6, 7 hours if there's a lot of elevation. But, you know, if I do speed work, I might do 4 or 5 miles, and you can already kind of see that, you know, for an ultramarathon, you can kind of see the finish line. So I know, you know, if I'm going to run a 6-minute mile for 2 or 3 miles, it's going to be hell, but it's, you know, it's only going to be, you know, 18 minutes kind of thing. And that to me is manageable, but I still do a lot of speed work. And funny enough, I haven't like suffered a lack of motivation. I had probably like you, I had a race calendar this year that was full, and I have 0 races on my calendar now. So I was training really hard for a couple of upcoming races, and you know, that's why I was doing the speed work, but I kept at it. Yeah.
Thank you. Brian Drendel, do you have a question for him?
Hey, Dean, this is Brian. So I read your book when I very first started running, you know, about 10 years ago, and I hadn't got into the trail ultra scene yet. And my first read of the book, I'll be honest, I was in disbelief at, you know, some of the stuff. I was like, this can't be real. This can't be real that you're lying on the ground, you can't run, and then you get the second win and you're up and you're running 7-minute pace. How can a human being possibly do that? So I did actually believe that. I didn't believe that until I worked my way into the ultra world and experienced those things for myself. And I took, you know, those images. This isn't really a question, but you know, I took that with me and realized, oh, this is stuff that you can do. So I guess my question is when was the first time you realized that you could be at the bottom of your well in a race and pull out and then recover and turn a bad race into a good race?
I guess the first time I would say is the Western States 100-mile endurance run, which I describe in Ultramarathon in the book. That was a race that I thought I'm never going to see the finish line on many occasions. I mean, even at mile 30 of a 100-mile race, when you know, the medic is basically sticking some super glue to lance it, you know, to patch up a blister of mine, and I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to run 70 miles from here. So I really learned a lot of lessons on that race that about persistence and about how, you know, just how you can get through things you never thought you could get through. That would have to be the race. And I think that you definitely win the background award. Where is that?
So that is my race, and my favorite race, Upper Peninsula, Marquette. That's over here, Lake Superior. And so that's the top of a Sugarloaf. So favorite race. As a matter of fact, that race is where I had to draw, and I cramped out at 16 miles and thought, this can't be over. I came here to do my first 50-mile today, and I was able to recover from that and not only turn around and get to the 50K point, but turn back around, go back out and finish that 50 miles. So it's like, I drew from what you said in your book, and it's like, maybe I can do it too, and I did.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I can't believe that at 16 miles you're locked up and you got to the finish line. That's a good lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. We have another question from Kevin. Would you like to ask it, Kevin?
Oh, no, I have to look and see what I wrote. It's just about different surfaces. So you run a lot of miles and you're doing a lot on trail and off-road. I'm trying to run more trail now just because it's easier on my joints. And do you find that maybe for the same distance that you recover faster running off-road than you do on concrete?
I would say without a doubt. I would say that, you know, I can run a 50 or 100 kilometer race on the trails, and that's about the equivalent of a road marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a road marathon these days, especially like I ran the Napa Valley Marathon at the first weekend of March, and just that flat, you know, it's a really flat course, and that repetitive micro trauma for 26.2 miles, you know. I got to say though, like, you know, footwear has changed a lot since you first started. So the Hoka and all the super cushioned shoes have helped with road running.
No, definitely. Thank you.
All right, we have one more question. Besides your dad being your greatest inspiration, did you have someone in the ultra community help you to get started?
Yeah, it was funny. If in Ultramarathon Man, I talked about meeting these two guys that were kind of arrogant, I thought, that just, kind of paid no regard to me, and they were really fit, and I thought I was really fit, and they were well beyond me. And I think they were basically just blowing me off, but they so influenced me. So I wish, I wish I would know who those guys were, because I met them on a couple occasions, have never seen them since. I don't know what state they were from, but they really influenced me. I'd like to thank them.
Awesome. I think that Steve wants to take a quick screenshot. So if everybody could smile, he's going to do a screenshot.
Yeah, I don't think I get 100% of us in there, but a good chunk of us. So if you guys look at the screen, I'll do a screenshot. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you all look beautiful.
Thank you. All right, Michelle, do you have any other questions?
Well, I just want to thank Dean again, and in the Midwest here, we always look forward to seeing you at the North Face race in September. So, we would welcome you to come back here. Actually, Kettle is postponed to the same weekend as what North Face used to be. And so, we'll take care of you if you ever want to come out for any Ornery Mule races, because you have
a deal. It's in September, right?
Yes, it's in September. Yeah,
all right.
September. Yeah.
If we're able to run in an event, I'm going to come to your event.
All right. We'll take good care of you.
I'm on the record now. You got me on video.
It is recorded. Right. And I want to thank you too. I really was happy when you responded to my question that I sort of begged you on your Facebook page to come join us. Super excited about that. We put a little present on your page today of all of our coaches put together a quote from your book. And so we really, really appreciate it. You've been an inspiration to so many of us. So thank you very, very much for joining us. I'll be catching up with you on email to get a little information, because we'd like to send you a little thank you. Okay.
I appreciate it. Everyone stay safe and stay reasonably sane as well. Let's get through this.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
Okay.
Thank you, Dean.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to end it just to introduce that our next book for our Ornery Mule Book Club is by one of our coaches, Brian Fran. And we will meet again next Wednesday, where we'll chat about days 0 through 5, which are the chapters. And if you'd like to get a copy of the book, if you comment on the Ornery Mule Wellness page, Brian can hook you up with a signed copy. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's so great to be able to connect with runners that we all share something in common and have this great passion for running, and to talk about ultra running. And wow, we got to do it with Dean tonight. So that was amazing. So thank you.
Awesome. And Loretta, thank you for everything that you did to take us through the book, and for Michelle and Ornery Mule Racing for making all this happen. You guys totally rock. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Yep. Loretta, you're crushing it. You're so good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a good night.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
So cute.